The night was quiet, almost too quiet, in a small suburban neighborhood, but in an instant, sirens blared, and chaos erupted. Police cars screeched to a halt as officers confronted a man they believed was a threat. Shots rang out. One man fell. Panic and confusion filled the air. The officers had no idea who they had just encountered or what kind of storm they had unleashed. What they didn't know was chilling. The man lying on the ground wasn't just anyone. He was the twin of a man so highly trained, so deadly, that his very name commanded fear in the world's most dangerous places. A Delta Force commander with a reputation that could send seasoned soldiers scrambling for cover. And now, his life or the secret of his identity was tangled in a shocking tragedy that nobody saw coming. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, hearts pounding, as the scene unfolded. The story wasn't just about a police shooting anymore, it was about hidden lives, deadly skills, and the thin line between ordinary and extraordinary. How could one man's mistaken identity set off a chain of events that no one could predict? As the sirens faded and the night returned to an uneasy silence, one question hung over the neighborhood like a shadow. Who was the real target, and how far would the consequences reach? What happens next isn't just a story of law enforcement and mistakes, it's a story of secrets, danger, and a man whose reputation could change everything. The truth behind that night is more shocking than anyone could imagine, and it's about to be revealed. For years, the twin brothers had lived parallel lives that no one outside their family could ever understand. On the surface, they seemed ordinary neighbors, friends, co-workers blending seamlessly into communities that would never guess the truth. But behind closed doors, one brother carried a secret that made him untouchable. A man whose training and experience in Delta Force missions had taken him to the most dangerous corners of the globe. Every move he made had been calculated, every skill honed to perfection. The twin who had been shot, however, had no connection to that world, or so it appeared. He was known for his calm demeanor, his work ethic, and his quiet life among people who trusted him. Yet in that single moment, mistaken identity had collided with a life built on danger and secrecy, and the consequences were about to ripple far beyond anyone's imagination. Police officers were already reviewing body cam footage, their faces grim as they pieced together what had happened. Witnesses whispered, rumors spread, and the neighborhood buzzed with fear and uncertainty. But no one suspected the magnitude of what lay beneath the surface, a man capable of feats most could only imagine, now tied to a tragic, chaotic incident that could trigger a chain reaction nobody saw coming. As investigators scrambled to understand the situation, a shadowy figure was already moving in silence. Every trained instinct, every covert operation, and every secret mission of the Delta Force commander now hung in the balance. And while the world thought it had seen the worst of that night, the real danger and the truth behind the twin brothers was only beginning to unfold. No one could predict how far this story would go or how deadly the consequences might be. The next morning, the neighborhood was tense, the kind of tension that clung to the air like smoke. News vans lined the streets, and reporters whispered into cameras, trying to piece together the story. Onlookers speculated wildly, but nobody could grasp the real danger simmering beneath the surface. Behind the headlines and police statements was a truth nobody had imagined. The man who had been shot was tied to someone capable of lethal precision and ruthless strategy. Inside a secure facility miles away, intelligence officers reviewed classified files, their faces pale as they connected dots nobody had expected to link. The Delta Force commander's missions had always been secret, carefully erased from public records, but now, the shooting had left a trail that threatened exposure. Every decision made by law enforcement, every move by the authorities, had unknowingly stepped into a world far deadlier than anyone could comprehend. Meanwhile, the twin who survived the chaos struggled with fear, confusion, and anger. Little about the life his brother led, yet he sensed the weight of it all pressing down. He began receiving cryptic messages, warnings he couldn't ignore, and realized that staying in one place could put him and everyone he cared about in danger. Friends and neighbors, oblivious to the hidden threat, continued their routines, unaware that ordinary streets had become the edge of something much larger, much more dangerous. From different angles, the story unfolded. Law enforcement determined to uncover the truth, civilians caught in a storm they didn't understand, and a Delta Force commander calculating his next move from the shadows. Every passing hour intensified the tension, and one question loomed over everyone when the truth finally emerged. Would anyone be prepared for the consequences? The real danger was still hidden on. It was only getting closer. Night fell again, but this time, the streets felt different, charged, almost electric, as if the city itself knew something was coming. Police scanners crackled, emergency lights cut through the darkness, and helicopters hovered overhead, tracing every movement. Every officer on the scene sensed the growing tension, but none could have predicted what was about to unfold. The surviving twins stayed hidden, moving from one safe location to another, each step shadowed by unease. Every phone call, every knock at the door made his heart race. He knew that the brother he barely understood could change everything with a single decision. And somewhere in the shadows, the Delta Force commander was already planning, calculating, watching ready to act with the precision of a man trained for situations far deadlier than this neighborhood confrontation. At the same time, investigators were piecing together the evidence, unaware that each move brought them closer to the commander himself. The more they dug, the more they realized this wasn't just a case of mistaken identity, it was a collision of worlds, a threat bigger than they could imagine. News outlets speculated, rumors spread online, and ordinary citizens were unknowingly stepping into a storm far beyond their understanding. Every angle of the story converged: fear, confusion, authority, and raw skill, intersecting in unpredictable ways. Suspense clung to every corner, every shadow held a possibility, and every decision carried weight. The streets, once familiar and safe, now felt like the edge of a battlefield. And as midnight approached, one undeniable truth became clear: nothing would ever be the same, and the moment of reckoning was drawing closer with every heartbeat. Just when the night seemed as tense as it could get, a new shock tore through the unfolding chaos. A security camera across town captured a figure moving with unnerving precision, someone who wasn't supposed to be there. The officers thought they were containing the situation, the twin believed he was staying hidden, and the city assumed the danger was limited to the neighborhood. But suddenly, it became clear. The threat was bigger, far more calculated, and far closer than anyone had imagined. The surviving twin received a cryptic message that chilled him to the bone. "You're not safe. Even where you hide." The message hinted that someone else knew more than they should. Someone tracking him and his brother's connection to the deadly Delta Force commander. Panic and dread intertwined as he realized the line between ordinary life and a hidden war had completely disappeared. Every safe street, every familiar face could conceal danger. Meanwhile, law enforcement's investigation hit an unexpected snag. Evidence began to contradict itself. Witness statements didn't match the timeline, and forensic results suggested that someone had been orchestrating the chaos from the shadows. The Delta Force commander, the twins' brother, remained unseen, but his presence was now undeniable. Every action and every clue pointed to a deeper, more dangerous game being played. And the neighborhood was merely a stage dot. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the stakes escalated. Ordinary citizens, law enforcement, and the twins themselves were all caught in a web that was growing tighter by the minute. Nothing was as it seemed, and the tension soared. Every choice carried weight, every shadow hid secrets, and the audience could feel it. The moment of confrontation and revelation was almost here. The tension finally snapped like a coiled spring. In the dead of night, the surviving twin found himself cornered in an abandoned warehouse. Sirens echoing in the distance, and shadows moving with every flicker of light. He braced himself, expecting the worst, when suddenly, a figure stepped out. Of the darkness it was his brother, the Delta Force commander. Calm and unyielding, eyes scanning every angle with trained precision. In that instant, everything clicked. The chaos, the mistaken identity, the police shooting it had all been a setup to flush him out. Law enforcement arrived moments later, but they were met not with confusion, but with coordination. The commander moved with precision, ensuring that no one innocent would be harmed while exposing the truth behind the night's deadly misunderstanding. Witnesses, neighbors, and even the twin watched in stunned silence as the man they had feared turned protector, his presence a force that none could challenge.